Welcome back! I've been doing a bunch of food restocking at home, so I thought it would be appropriate for us to start up this month with some cost-saving tips. Shopping for a family, or just buying for yourself, let's jump right in. If you're a bacon lover like me, you probably already know how great Costco is for buying in bulk. As you see, I've got so much of it. So first things first, I go for relatively thick sliced bacon. Honestly, I just like the texture. It's chewier, meatier, and holds up well in all kinds of dishes. Whether you're making a bacon, egg, and cheese, tossing it into pasta, or adding it to your fried rice, thick bacon just makes everything better. Plus, it's super versatile. Bacon can get really sticky when it's fresh, so I like to separate the strips a bit. Then, if the bacon's a bit moist or slippery, I'll just pat it dry with paper towels to remove some of that moisture. It helps the bacon freeze better and keeps it from getting all mushy later on. I layer each strip of bacon with parchment paper before I freeze it. This makes sure the bacon doesn't stick together into one big clump. Seriously, no more trying to pry apart frozen bacon slices. Just a simple layer of parchment between each slice and you're golden. Here's a fun one that I learned from another video a while back. It's called the bacon roll-up. I know it sounds a little weird, but it works. After you've separated the strips, roll them up like a little fruit roll-up. It takes up way less space in your freezer, and it makes it so much easier to grab a few strips when you need them. You just unroll it and you're good to go. I also like to save a few strips in the fridge for the week, so I don't have to keep pulling from the freezer every time I want some bacon. I keep it all together into a Ziploc or two. Freezing it properly like this keeps it fresh for longer, and it helps avoid that weird slimy bacon situation. If you've watched my previous videos, you know that I'm all about keeping my kitchen stocked with high quality, affordable ingredients, especially when it comes to making healthy meals. One staple I always have on hand is flour. Yes, flour. It might sound simple, but for us, it's absolutely essential. I'm not a fan of buying bread from the store. If you're like me, you've probably noticed how many ingredients are in the store, most of which I'd rather avoid. Things like enriched flour, which is highly processed and not something that I want to be eating regularly. And it can also be pretty difficult to follow a sugar-free diet if you're relying on a store-bought bread, so I choose to make my own. As a Romanian, bread is a part of my daily meals, but instead of buying it, I buy flour in bulk from Costco. The quality is great and it's high in protein, which is exactly what I want in my kitchen. I use it for so many things, from baking fresh loaves of bread to creating all sorts of baked goods. This time I made about 7 loaves of bread in one go. After prepping the dough, I wrap each loaf in plastic wrap and pop them in the freezer. This way I always have fresh dough ready to bake whenever I need it. The dough stays moist, and when I bake it, the bread stays fresh for 2 to 3 days. Now, you might wonder, why not just bake all the loaves at once and freeze the bread? I've tried that, but the taste just isn't the same as fresh baked bread. So here's what I do instead. I take one loaf out of the freezer, let it thaw for 1 hour on the counter or pop it in the microwave for about 10 minutes. Then I bake it at 430 degrees Fahrenheit for 30 minutes. It's the perfect way to get that fresh baked taste without spending all day in the kitchen and almost no effort. And let me tell you, there's nothing better than a slice of fresh bread with fried eggs and bacon in the morning. Or even just a warm piece of bread with butter. It's a simple pleasure, and with flour on hand, I can have that fresh taste every time. When I bring home a 2-pound block of sharp cheddar or Gouda or both, I don't keep it whole. Instead, I cut the big block into 4 or 5 smaller pieces. This way, I'm only taking out what I need each time and keeping the rest of the cheese fresh. Once I've cut the pieces, I wrap each one tightly in plastic wrap. This step is key because it prevents the cheese from drying out and helps seal in its moisture. After I've wrapped each piece, I store them in the refrigerator. The great thing is that cheese stays fresh for quite a while in there, anywhere from a few weeks to a month, depending on how quickly you go through it. But if you want to store it for even longer, freezing is also an option. Just pop the wrapped pieces in a freezer, in a safe bag or container, and when you need a piece, just pull one out, let it thaw in the fridge, and you're good to go. Cutting the cheese into smaller portions not only helps keep it fresh, but it also gives me the confidence of grabbing exactly what I need for recipes, like for eggs or pasta. Plus, it makes it easier to snack on a slice whenever I'm craving something cheesy. If you're someone who loves cooking from scratch, then you know carrots are a staple. But let's be real, a big bag of carrots can be a bit overwhelming, especially if you're trying to keep them fresh. So I've got a few tips to make sure they last as long as possible for my family. First off, I always peel them all at once. I know it's a bit of time commitment, but trust me, it's a game changer. Having them prepped means less work every time I need to cook, and it saves me tons of time in the long run. Then I store them in a glass jar. I fill the jar with water and pop it in the fridge, where they stay fresh for up to 3 weeks. Just remember to change the water every couple of days to keep them crisp. If I'm feeling extra organized, I chop the carrots into small cubes, perfect for soups, curries, or anything else that calls for them. I also sometimes leave them whole, peeled, and wrap them in plastic wrap before freezing them. This method can keep them fresh for up to a year, though I recommend using them within 10 months for the best flavor. For us, carrots don't last that long. We go through them so quickly. If you're looking to add healthy snacks to your diet without breaking the bank, this one is for you. Now, I don't know about you, but I love having a healthy snack on hand, and nuts are one of my go-to options. Walnuts and cashews are packed with protein, healthy fats, and other essential nutrients, making them perfect for fueling your body throughout the day. But here's the thing, if you buy them in bulk, especially at Costco, you get a great deal and they last much longer than you might think. So here's how I make them last. After I get my bulk bags from Costco, I immediately divide them into smaller portions. I use Ziploc bags, nothing fancy, just simple, reliable storage. I make sure to label each bag with the date, or maybe not if I know that I'm gonna use them soon, then pop them in the refrigerator. Keeping them cool helps prevent them from going rancid, and honestly this method makes them last for months. I can grab a handful whether I need a quick snack and I don't have to worry about them spoiling too soon. Nuts like walnuts and cashews contain healthy oils that when exposed to heat or light can go bad quickly. Storing them in the fridge keeps those oils fresh and helps preserve the flavor and texture. It's a super simple step that makes a huge difference. Besides being an easy snack, walnuts and cashews are healthy. Walnuts are packed with omega-3 fatty acids, which are great for heart health, while cashews are loaded with magnesium and iron, which support your muscles and immune system. Whether you are adding them to your smoothie or just snacking on them straight from the bag, these nuts are a must-have. If you're a butter lover like me, you know that Costco is the place to grab a good deal on butter, but specifically this brand. I feel like it is the only real butter in America. What do you think? When you buy a big package, you need to store it properly to make sure it stays fresh and doesn't go to waste. Butter is such a versatile ingredient, really high in calories that I need. I use it in so many of my recipes. Whether I'm baking, cooking, or just spreading it on toast, butter is a must-have in my kitchen. The trick is to make sure you store it right so it lasts a long time. When I bring home a big block of butter, I don't just leave it in its original packaging. Instead, I cut it into 2 smaller pieces. This is so much easier for daily use. I keep one piece in a French butter dish on the counter, which makes it easy to grab for cooking or spreading. The other piece I store in the fridge. This way I've got soft butter ready to go for any meal, but the rest stays fresh in the fridge. An important tip: if you keep the butter in its original packaging, you might end up eating a little bit of the wrapper when you're trying to get the piece off the block. And that's why I prefer to cut it into 2 portions on a plate. It keeps everything cleaner and ensures I'm not accidentally eating bites of plastic. Plus, it helps the butter last longer by controlling how much I use at a time. The great thing about butter is that it lasts for a long time, especially when you store it properly. The piece I keep on the counter is in the French butter dish. It can last about 1 week or 2, but in my case it's max a couple of days, and I find that's the perfect amount of time for easy daily use. When it comes to buying peppers in bulk, especially at Costco, the possibilities are endless, and it's totally worth it if you know how to store them properly. I love using peppers in so many dishes, so I never let them go to waste. Here's my to-go method. I chop them into small cubes, mixing up the colors because who doesn't love a pop of color and extra flavor? And then I wrap them tightly in plastic wrap. I portion them out based on what I'll need for each meal. And here's the best part: even if I don't use all of it, I can just pull out what I need and pop the rest back into the freezer. Chopped peppers, when stored this way, can stay fresh in the freezer for about 6 to 8 months for the best quality. Technically, they can last up to a year if stored properly, which is awesome when you're buying in bulk. Frozen peppers are perfect for stir fries, soup, stews, sauces, you name it. Today I'm using some of my frozen peppers for a delicious baked beef dish. I just throw them in the pan frozen alongside sauteed onions and let them cook together. Now speaking of onions, I know some people freeze them too, but I just prefer to keep them fresh. Onions last up to 4 weeks at room temperature, and I always peel and chop them right before using. It just gives a fresher flavor to my dishes. What do you think? Does freezing work for you, or do you prefer keeping things fresh too? That wraps up for my Costco haul for today. Let me know in the comments if you loved this and if you want to see more hauls like this one. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe for more, and share your thoughts below. I always love hearing from you. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video. Take care. If you're struggling to eat healthy without spending many hours in the kitchen, I want to give you a free gift. I've spent many hours to break it down into a 30 recipe book for energy, recovery, and weight loss. Go to the description and grab it, it's absolutely free. I'm guessing when people come for the first time to my channel, they think that eating healthy means you cook bread for 3 straight days. Or you're cooking up dishes that take many hours to produce. But in reality, I'm very busy just like all of you, and a lot of times my meals don't look like that at all. I am a busy law student and a mom of 2, pregnant with my 3rd, and I'm just trying to produce a meal in 15 minutes. That's what a healthy home cook is. Still not choosing fast food when you're tired and busy to put food on the table. I'm going to be showing you my top 3 healthy meals recipes. Those dishes are very customizable. Let's get into the recipes. The first recipe we're making is a 15-minute pasta with a quick tomato sauce. Add water to a pot and bring it to a boil. Next, I'll get a pan preheating on low heat. I'm going to dice up an onion nice and thin so it cooks quickly and dump in a good amount of high-quality olive oil. I'll throw the onions into the pan to saute them a bit, only for a couple of minutes, and in the meantime, slice up some garlic. I find slicing is more comfortable. It also protects it from burning, and it activates the allicin better, which has anti-inflammatory benefits. I'm just sweating the onions and garlic without getting too much color, just a few minutes and they are ready. Now I'll dump in these tomatoes, cutting them into a few pieces to speed up the cooking. I'll put a lid on so they break down. You notice I did not break the pasta, which is ideal. It will eventually all get in the water. I hope the Italians are proud of me. I'll chop up some cilantro and grate some cheese. Ideally you'd use Parmesan, but I'll use Gouda because this is what I have. The tomatoes look amazing. I'll use a spatula because it is the only tool that I have on hand to mash them now. I'm honest with you, that took no time and looks pretty good. It's sweet and a bit garlicky and so creamy. The pasta is al dente after about 9 minutes. It comes together so easily. We add the pasta right into the sauce with a little pasta water to combine evenly. We want the noodles to mix well with that sauce and create creaminess with the starch. We'll add the cheese and finally at the end the fresh herbs. That tomato sauce is loaded with depth of flavor, and you didn't need a store-bought jar that would have cost you at least 5 times the price of the tomatoes. This is so much better than the sauce you buy at the store. Next, I wanted to hit multiple cuisines, so let's go a bit into the Middle East to make a homemade hummus. I'll start by adding the canned chickpeas into a bowl with warm water. If you have the time, feel free to cook dry ones, but in order to be ready within 15 minutes with the prep, I'll use this. You can be even faster with a blender. It would normally take me about 5 minutes to make it, but we don't have one now at the current home we live in, and so I'll improvise by mashing them. I like to peel the skin off, which I find optional if you have a blender. In order to be fast, I'll just do it with my hands. The warm water helps peel those skins off so quickly. Once I remove them, I use a fork to mash them. A stone grinder can be helpful, just like the old ways of making it, but a fork or even a garlic mincer does a great job. Minimalism can make you quite creative, which is funny, but anyway. Now add some salt, mince a clove of garlic, add the juice from half a lemon, and lots of tahini. This is the way we love it, not too garlicky or too sour. Adjust it based on your taste. Ideally, we serve this with homemade pita bread. I have some leftovers to use, but to make it ready within 15 minutes, we'll serve it it with carrots and cucumbers. I'll also add some homemade pickles. The ones at the store have sugar and I just find it so unnecessary. I have some olives, so I'll add those on the side. We do love to serve hummus with lots of olive oil. I'll garnish with a bit of paprika, and here you have a very easy high protein dinner alternative. This last 15-minute meal is by far my laziest, and I say that because every home cook needs a lazy go-to. I can cook more to have leftovers for tomorrow, and it's pretty easy to keep it fresh for days. The only effort is chopping the veggies, but if you have a special tool, that will cut the time at least in half. Start with some broccoli. I cut the florets first, then slice the hard part, about half of which is just as good as asparagus. The bigger ones I cut in half so they cook evenly. Then add them to the pan. I'll make it oil-free because during Lent most weekdays are no oil. You can saute with water or feel free to use olive oil. I'll slice some red onion that I add right on top. Some mushrooms would be delicious, but we'll skip those as I don't have any for now. I'll peel a carrot, cut it into thin layers and add them to the pan. Another really good ingredient is red pepper. It brings sweetness and crunch. I'll add it right on top of the other veggies. The beauty of this recipe is that it's very customizable. You can also use leftovers. About half a zucchini is good. I want it very thin to cook through fast. I keep the seasoning simple. Some salt is enough for now. Spinach is a very nice addition. I had some leftover. During pregnancy it is ideal because it has high folic acid. And another optional but very recommended ingredient is walnut. They bring fat and crunch and they are so healthy. I'll roughly chop some. I'll go for half a cup. I'll give it a stir, then add some protein. White beans are a really nice combo, but feel free to use what you have, chickpeas or even lentils. I'll use a can to fit those 15 minutes, but if you've got the time, feel free to cook dry ones. We'll finally chop lots of dill and cilantro because these herbs can really enhance the dish. To beautifully melt all these flavors, we'll squeeze half a very ripe lemon. These dishes require minimal tools and the cleaning is ready in minutes too. Ideally, when we want to cook a 15-minute dish, it's nice when the cleaning is under 5 minutes. If you have a little more time than 15 minutes and want to see how I manage my metabolic health, you have to watch this video where I show 8 recipes of what I eat in a week to stay sugar-free and energized. I think honestly, lunch is the hardest meal to get right, especially when you're handling a busy household or a demanding schedule. It's the main reason why so many people resorting to processed takeout, but I don't want you spending your hard-earned money on fast food that leaves you feeling sluggish. I want you enjoying delicious from scratch Mediterrasian lunches that are light, nutrient-dense, and keep your energy steady without the sugar crashes. Most importantly, as a mom of 2, I know we don't have all day in the kitchen, so every one of these meals come together in under 15 minutes. We're starting off with a recipe that I've finally perfected to crack that 15-minute code without sacrificing a single bit of flavor. We're starting with our protein. I'm using chicken breast cut into small cubes. The smaller the cut, the faster the sear. Toss them into a stainless steel pan with a splash of hot olive oil. I'm a firm believer that less is more, so we're keeping it simple. Just add pepper and a touch of paprika. Let it sit for a minute to get that beautiful golden crust. While the chicken sears, we maximize our minutes by getting the quinoa going. It's a simple 1:2 ratio. 1 cup of quinoa to 2 cups of water. Bring it to a boil, then let it do its thing. Now for the Mediterranean crunch. If you have a veggie chopper, now it's time to use it. We're dicing 2 big cucumbers into tiny cubes, followed by red peppers for that hit of freshness. I've got some juicy ripe tomatoes here. Get those into the bowl too. Every great salad needs a mountain of fresh herbs, so we're using plenty of dill and cilantro. For a hit of healthy fats and brain power, I'm adding roughly chopped walnut. They add a perfect earthiness that ties the whole bowl together. To finish, we're adding our fluffy quinoa, a squeeze of fresh lemon juice, and a handful of pomegranate seeds for a burst of natural sweetness. Give it a mix and you have a high-protein, low-glycemic lunch that's ready to go. Next up is a meal that proves you can have steak on a weekday. We're cutting beef into small cubes so it flash cooks in the pan with a little olive oil. While the beef browns, we prep our greens. I'm dropping fresh spinach into boiling water for exactly 30 seconds. Just enough to wilt, then immediately into an ice bath to lock in that vibrant green color. I'll add some broccoli florets to the same water for 4 to 5 minutes until they're tender crisp. Back to the beef, a pinch of salt and a splash of water to deglaze the pan and keep things juicy. We're serving this over a quick prep rice. To keep it Mediterranean, I'm folding in freshly chopped cilantro and a bright squeeze of lemon. Assemble it all in a bowl, the fluffy rice, the iron-rich greens, and a generous portion of that savory beef. It's clean, it's fast, and it's miles better than takeout. Finally, we're making 12-minute chicken fajitas. This is all about the sauté. Melt a small knob of butter and toss in sliced bell peppers and red onion. Once they start to soften, add your chicken breast sliced into 1-inch strips for quick cooking. Season with salt, pepper, and paprika. In about 10 minutes, the chicken is juicy and the veggies are caramelized. Finish with lemon juice and more fresh cilantro. I'm serving mine inside a fresh warm pita with a dollop of Greek yogurt for that creamy probiotic finish. It's a perfect handheld lunch that feels like a treat. If you're struggling to eat healthy without spending many hours in the kitchen, I want to give you a free gift. I've spent many hours to break it down into a 30 recipe book for energy, recovery, and weight loss. Go to the description and grab it, it's absolutely free. The bitter truth, why it's not the fat, it's the poison. I did a bunch of research about sugar and the effects that it has on us, and I want to share with you the research that I found. I'll start this video with a story that we've been told and why it's wrong. This story has been in the marketing for over 35 years, and it's about biochemistry, politics, and a massive public health failure. By the time I'm done, I hope I have debunked the last 3 decades of nutrition information, especially in the US. Let's start with a quick quiz. What do the Atkins diet and the traditional Japanese diet have in common? On the surface, nothing. Atkins is all fat and no carbs. The Japanese diet is all carbs and no fat. Yet they both work for weight management. Why? Because they both share the critical factor. They eliminate the sugar known as fructose. We talk about the obesity epidemic, but look at the data. We aren't just seeing more obese people, the entire population's weight curve has shifted. On average, today we all weigh 25 pounds more than we did 25 years ago. Now, people really love to blame the genetics, but our gene pool didn't change in 30 years. Our environment did. We've been taught the first law of thermodynamics as a moral failing. If you eat it, you better burn it or you'll store it. This frames obesity as a result of gluttony and sloth. But I'm here to tell you that's the biggest mistake in modern medicine. Obesity isn't a choice, it's a biochemical process. We have an epidemic of obese 6-month-olds. You cannot tell me that a 6-month-old is a glutton or lazy. There is a biochemical force driving energy storage, and today we're gonna find out what it is. The Great Fat Fallacy. In 1982, the American Heart Association and the USDA told us all to reduce our fat consumption from 40% to 30%. We listened, we created a world of fat-free cakes and low-fat snacks. But as our fat consumption went down, obesity, heart disease, and diabetes just skyrocketed. So is it the fat? No, it's not. What happened was that we replaced the fat with carbohydrates, especially sugar. We are eating more calories than we used to. But why? Because our negative feedback system, a hormone called leptin, isn't working. Leptin tells your brain you've had enough. If we're overeating by 300 calories a day, it's because our biochemistry is broken. Let's look at where those extra calories are coming from. In 1915, a Coke was 6.5 ounces. Today, a single serving is 20 ounces. But it's not just the size, it's the chemistry. Coke contains caffeine and 55 milligrams of salt. It's just like drinking a liquid pizza. Why is there so much sugar? To hide the salt so you don't taste it. The salt makes you thirstier, the caffeine makes you go to the toilet, and the sugar just masks the salt so you keep drinking. Is corn fructose worse than canned sugar? Economically, yes. Biologically, they are essentially the same. They both contain fructose, and fructose is a poison. Notice the differences. Glucose is a 6-membered ring, fructose is a 5-membered ring. They are not metabolized the same way. Glucose is the energy of life. Every cell in your body can use it. Fructose, however, can only be processed by your liver. We went from eating 15 grams of fructose a day from whole fruits to 75 grams or even more. We are being poisoned by the sheer volume. This didn't happen by accident. It was a perfect storm of 3 political wins. 1. Nixon. In 1972, the government wanted food to be cheap to keep it off the political table. 2nd, the invention of HFCS. It was cheap, stable, and it found its way into everything. From hamburgers burger buns to barbecue sauces. When the food industry took the fat out, the food tasted like cardboard. To make it palatable, they dumped in the sugar. The war on fat was based on a logical fallacy. Scientists found that dietary fat raises LDL, which is the bad cholesterol, and that LDL correlates with heart diseases. They assumed that by removing the fat, they would remove the disease. But as early as 1972, John Yudkin, a brilliant British researcher, warned us in his book Pure White and Deadly that the real culprit was sugar. Of course, he was ignored in favor of Ansel Keys, whose 7 countries study seemed to blame fat. But if you look closer at Keys' data, countries like Japan and Italy had low heart disease, but that's not just because of low fat, but because they had almost no fructose in their diets at the time. What conclusions do we get from this? We have been hoodwinked. We've been told that juice is healthy, but juice is just sugar water without the fiber of the fruit to slow it down. We've been told that all calories are equal, but the calorie of fructose is vastly more damaging to your liver than a calorie of glucose. Managing your health isn't about counting calories, it's about understanding the biochemistry of what you put into your mouth. Fructose, it's not just empty calories, it is a chronic dose-dependent liver toxin. The great low-fat lie. Most people think that low-fat craze of the 1980s was based on solid science. It wasn't. It was based on a massive statistical error by a man named Ansel Keys. Keys claimed that heart disease was caused by saturated fat, but if you actually look at his raw data, there was a glaring problem. Whether people ate high fat, they were almost always eating high sugar too. Think about a donut. It's loaded with fat, right? But it's also loaded with sugar. Keys never separated the two. He didn't do the math required to see which one was actually killing us. He just blamed the fat and ignored the sugar. And because he's no longer with us, we're left with a 30-year legacy of nutrition policy that has a hole in its size of a battleship. The LDL shell game. We've been told for decades that LDL is the bad cholesterol, but it's not that simple. There are actually 2 types of LDL. The pattern A, these are large and buoyant. They are like beach balls floating in a stream. They're too big to get stuck in your artery walls, so they don't cause block. The pattern B, these are small and dense. These are the lethal pellets. They sink, they get trapped under your vessels walls, and they start the fire that leads to heart disease. Here's the kicker. Dietary fat raises the harmless pattern A. It's carbohydrates and sugar that raises the deadly pattern B. When we went low fat in 1982, we did the worst thing possible. We took out the fat, which made the food taste like cardboard, and the food industry replaced it with sugar to make it palatable. We traded large buoyant LDL for small dense LDL. We didn't make ourselves healthier, we just changed the way we got sick. Fructose, the alcohol without the buzz. To understand why this is so dangerous, you have to look at the biochemistry. Let's compare 120 calories of glucose, like white bread, with 120 calories of fructose, like the sugar in the soda. When you eat glucose, every cell in your body can use it for energy. Only about 20% of it hits your liver. Your liver converts it into glycogen, which is a completely safe, non-toxic energy storage. Your brain sees the insulin spike and says, hey, I'm full, stop eating. But fructose, it's a totally different animal. Fructose is processed only by the liver. It doesn't stimulate insulin, which means it doesn't shut off your hunger hormone, ghrelin. It also doesn't signal your brain's fullness hormone, leptin. This is why you can drink a 20 ounces soda and still feel hungry, enough to eat a full meal. Your brain literally doesn't know you just consumed 250 calories. In fact, the way your liver handles fructose, it's almost identical to how it handles ethanol, alcohol. Alcohol is just fermented sugar. When you dump a high dose of fructose into your liver, it creates a traffic jam of energy converted directly into liver fat. As your liver struggles to process all that fructose, it creates a waste product called uric acid. Most people associate uric acid with good, but it does something much more invisible and dangerous than that. It blocks the enzyme that keeps your blood pressure low. When uric acid goes up, your nitric oxide goes down and your blood pressure skyrockets. We are currently facing a national epidemic of hypertension and metabolic syndrome, which is just a fancy name for the combination of obesity, diabetes, and heart disease. We've removed the fiber from our food because it's fast and shelf stable, and we've replaced it with a metabolic toxin that our livers weren't designed to handle in these quantities. We haven't just messed up our food supply, we've poisoned it on purpose. And we have to know this and we have to change it. The chemical truth about sugar, the great substitution. Think about a sports drink. We're told it's for athletes, right? And it's true. If you run 26 miles, high fructose corn syrup helps your liver refuel faster than anything else. But let's be real, who's actually drinking it? It's not marathon runners, it's kids. In the early 90s, the big soda companies realized they couldn't market a salty recovery drink to the masses because, frankly, the original stuff tasted just like sweat. So what did they do? They just hit it with a massive dose of sugar. We took a specialized medical tool for athletes and turned it into a daily beverage for toddlers. The new fat marketing machine. Here is the chemical reality. When you eat a piece of white bread, glucose, your whole body uses it. Only a tiny fraction hits your liver. But when you drink a soda, which has lots of fructose, your liver takes the entire hit at once. In your liver, that fructose triggers a process called de novo lipogenesis. That's a fancy way of saying creating fat from starch. In fact, when you consume fructose, 30% of those calories end up as fat. You think you're drinking a low-fat carbohydrate, but metabolically, you're drinking liquid fat. The starving brain paradox. The worst part is that sugar breaks your internal fuel gauge. Normally, a hormone called leptin tells your brain, hey, you've got enough energy, stop eating. But the high insulin levels caused by sugar block that signal. Your brain literally cannot see the leptin. So even though your body is storing record amounts of fat, your brain thinks you're starving. You aren't overeating because you're lazy or weak-willed. You're overeating because your brain is receiving famine sign in the middle of a feast. Alcohol without a buzz. If I gave a child a beer, I'd be arrested, right? But I give them a Coke, that's a treat. Chemically, the liver handles them almost exactly the same. Both cause fatty liver, both cause high blood pressure, and both drive the metabolic syndrome that is currently crushing your healthcare system. Fructose is ethanol without the buzz, the natural antidote. So why is fruit okay? Because nature never provides the poison without the antidote. That antidote is fiber. Sugar cane is basically a stick of wood. In nature, sugar is locked inside the fiber matrix. Fiber does three things. It slows down absorption so your liver doesn't get overwhelmed. It feeds your gut bacteria, the fat or fart choice. It triggers your fullness signal faster, and when we process food, we strip the fiber away to make it shelf sustainable. We are effectively removing the safety belt from the car and then wondering why the accidents are so fatal. The reality check. The government won't save us from this. The FDA only regulates acute toxins, the stuff that kills you today. They don't regulate chronic toxins, the stuff that kills you in 20 years. A calorie is not just a calorie. Glucose is the energy of life. Fructose is a metabolic toxin. We've been told for 40 years to eat less and exercise more, but that doesn't work if the fuel you're putting in the tank is breaking the engine. It's time to stop looking at sugar as empty calories and start looking at it from what it actually really is. It's a chronic hepatotoxin. If you're looking for a cheap, nutritious dinner that you can easily make in an Airbnb while traveling, you absolutely need to try this simple spinach and lentil curry. It uses basic ingredients, doesn't require any fancy equipment, and comes together with almost no effort, perfect for a cozy meal on the road. Start by bringing a pot of water to a boil. Nothing complicated here, just enough water to comfortably cover your lentils. Once it's bubbling, add in your 2 cups of dried lentils. You can use red, green or brown depending on what you find at the store. Let the lentils cook for around 20 minutes or until they're soft and tender. Give them a stir every now and then so they cook evenly. While the lentils are doing their thing, grab 1 medium white onion and chop it finely. This will add a nice base of flavor to the curry. Heat a little oil in a pan, olive oil, vegetable oil, whatever you got, and saute the onion for about 5 to 6 minutes until it turns soft. Next, add in about 3 cloves of garlic, minced or chopped, and saute that for another minute. You want the garlic to become fragrant but not burnt. Now it's time to build the flavor. Add a combination of red chili powder, ground coriander, curry powder, cumin, and a bit of turmeric. Cook the spices for about a minute to wake them up and help them release their aroma. While the spices are smelling amazing, add in a couple of chopped tomatoes. Season them right away with a pinch of salt and a little black pepper. Let them cook for about 5 minutes, stirring gently until they soften and start to break down into a thick, saucy mixture. This will become the flavorful base that ties the whole curry together. When the tomatoes are fully cooked and the lentils are soft, pour the tomato mixture into the pot of lentils. Stir everything together so the spices coat the lentils evenly. Now grab a whole box of fresh spinach. Add it straight into the pot. It may look like a lot at first, but spinach cooks down dramatically. Stir it in, and if the mixture looks too thick, add a small splash of water. Season again with a little salt and pepper, then let the curry simmer for another 5 minutes. Season again with a little salt and pepper, then let the curry simmer for another 5 to 10 minutes. This helps all the flavor blend and gives you a chance to adjust the consistency to your liking. If you want it thicker, simmer longer. If you want it thinner, add a bit more water. Once everything is soft, creamy, and beautifully combined, your spinach and lentil curry is ready to serve. For the perfect finishing touch, squeeze a bit of fresh lemon juice over the top right before eating. It brightens the whole dish and balances the spices perfectly. Serve this with some steamed rice if you have access to a pot or rice cooker, and if it happens to find fresh naan at a local bakery or market, even better. Let me show you how I made this delicious, easy and so quick little beef veggie stir fry. I'm using ground beef for protein. Here I'll use about 1 pound, but you can do this with chicken, with pork, you can do it even with shrimp. You can do it with no meat at all and just use a bunch of vegetables or even tofu. It's so delicious. I had some ground meat left in the fridge to use, and I added a little salt, a little black pepper, give it a mix and let the meat cook while you get everything else prepped. For the veggies, this is a great time to clean out your fridge. I had some broccoli, a red pepper and a green bell pepper that I just sliced up, and these are perfect. This is what I have on hand, but like I said, feel free to use anything that you have. I'll bring a zucchini, and ideally you grate a carrot. I forgot, I got distracted with the kids and I just skipped it, but carrot is very recommended. I just remembered I had some mushrooms to use as well, so then I chopped some of them. I had some garlic. It really melts nice in this recipe. I use 4 cloves. Adjust based on your taste. Saute for a couple of seconds. For this, I won't make any sauce. I'll use lemons from the garden. Now it's perfect time to use some. I just squeeze right on top at the end. They are so sweet and perfectly ripe. I like to add a bunch of fresh cilantro for that fresh taste. Now I have some rice cooking, but feel free to use pasta, noodles, eat it by itself, even with bread it's great. But to make this recipe, it's so easy. Add your veggies, cook those for a few minutes so that they become tender. It's so healthy, so delicious, versatile, and such a great weeknight go-to because it takes no time at all to put together. It's a great clean out your fridge type of recipe. It makes everyone happy, doesn't dirty up a bunch of pots and pans, and comes together in under 15 minutes, which I love. Great for meal prep, great option for the next 3 days. Recipes in the description. Hope you enjoy. Bye bye. It's Monday today and I decided to cook a bunch of food. to make sure we have plenty for the next 3 days and to pretty much make sure I'm not gonna be worried about cooking. All of it is sugar free and it's meant to be as low carb as possible. I feel like my body is like a megaphone for literally how I'm feeling like as soon as I eat correctly, especially if I have sugar added in my meals. As you probably already know, I'm pregnant and the levels of energy that I have are reflected in what I eat. I always notice that after 3 days of no sugar and low carbs, I feel so much more energized. I feel more mental clarity. Even my skin is different when I eat only healthy foods. I'm really excited to share with you the meal plan for this week. We do the groceries in a free open market where it's mostly organic food. People bring their own chickens, their own eggs from their chickens. Same with the fruits, and it's quite nice to have that. It really does feel a difference in terms of quality as the taste, and it's just so much different. You'll see what I mean in just a second. For every morning breakfast, we have eggs with cheese and coffee with high-fat milk. We keep it every day the same. Now I plan to make breakfast burritos. I saw that there are so many different ways of making them, but some options look just overcomplicated to me, and I want to share with you my simplified version that takes very little time. In the past, I used to make them with homemade pita, but this time we found a good lavash option which has only 4 ingredients, and so we will use it this time. Start with the ground beef. I have about a pound here that is still half frozen. No worries, it will cook pretty fast. You can definitely personalize it more with your favorite spices, but I prefer to keep it simple with salt and black pepper only. It takes about 20 to 25 minutes to have it ready. Then I add frozen chopped cilantro. We usually use fresh, but this time because I ran out of fresh one, I just used the reserves from the freezer. To make things easy and to keep it fresh, I add it into a glass container and I move on to the next main ingredient, which is eggs. Normally the recipes are using about a dozen, but for me 10 was enough. I feel like one of the big advantages in living here is to just have fresh organic eggs. Now I have an inquiry. I used to be a big fan of the Vital Farmers. I'd spend that extra $8 or $9 extra just because, as many of you, I wanted the best nutrition for my pregnancy and my toddlers, and I truly believed the marketing about pasteurized perfection. But with the recent controversy in 2026 and the lab results showing their feed might be just as heavy in corn and soy as the cheap brands, I felt really conflicted, and the orange yolk due to the marigold or paprika to the feed, It feels like we're paying a premium price for marketing rather than actual quality. Lately, I've felt so blessed to have access to real local organic eggs where I know exactly what the hens are eating. The difference in how I feel and how my kids eat is actually night and day difference. But I know that's not an option for everyone, and once we'll move back, I'm going to be in the same boat as you, most likely staring at the grocery shelf wondering what to buy. So that's why I want to ask you, what is your egg strategy right now? Are you still sticking with the premium brands, or have you found a better alternative? If you have a secret for finding high quality eggs without the corporate drama, please drop it in the comments. It's gonna be highly appreciated. We pay here about 35 cents for each egg, so with $15 we pretty much get about 40 eggs. Anyways, so for the burritos, I do scrambled eggs. Do low to medium heat to get soft eggs. Probably if you are in the US, you know better than me how to get them very soft. I don't add salt or anything, just cook them in lots of butter, then add them into a glass container. The third main ingredient is cheese. I do some kind of cheddar cheese. It's a Danish brand, as this is kind of the best we can get here. I like to start grinding the leftovers first. I highly recommend to grind it yourself than to buy it already prepared to go, because it's way more dry and it's just different when you make it yourself. Now I set this aside and move to the next important dish of the day, which is meant to last months. Cooking liver is something maybe not very enjoyable for many. I just leave you a quick list of the benefits that this organ can have for our bodies. I clean the main skin, then I cut it into cubes. Here I have about a pound. I cook it in butter, lots of butter. It cooks pretty fast, about 5 to 6 minutes should be fine. but I do like to overcook it a little bit. It's safer this way, and I actually like it a bit more dry. Be careful if you're pregnant because it has really high concentration of vitamin A, and this is why I consume it in moderation. To enhance the flavor, I cut an onion into thin slices. You can cook it before or after. I noticed it's not a big difference. I season with some salt and let it cook another few minutes. I usually take 1-2 bites a week or anytime I want when not pregnant. I keep it in the freezer and just take a piece from time to time. This is actually one of the best supplements you can get, also due to the bioavailability as it actually absorbs in your body. Next, let's cook my chicken noodle soup that I think every week I cook, sometimes even 2 times a week. One thing that might seem nasty, but I really enjoy buying the chicken that has most of the organs still inside, especially the liver. It's so great to just cook it in the soup and to see in the same time the health of the chicken. If it would have had some problems, some health problems, you would see on the liver with some stains or anything weird. So I started with the legs. I cut them. I'll show you in another video a better representation of it. If you want, let me know in the comments. Pretty much I cut the membranes first, then move to the chest and back, and then remove, when I get the opportunity, the liver and the stomach. It's really nice to see that it's not a very big size, it's just a normal tiny chicken. They seem very organic, which is probably very likely. We buy from ladies who raise them in their own gardens, not farmers with factories of chickens. I don't really keep the neck and the head. There are ways to keep more of it. Now the way I cook is the following. I add it all in a pan with boiling water just to clean it very well from blood and the remaining leathers. You saw it has some itch in there. In the meantime, let's make the noodles, which are very easy to make. 1 egg with a bit of baking soda, then flour until I get the consistency of a dough. My way of cooking is on fast mode. Normally, in order to get these noodles perfect, you need to let them dry for at least 2-3 hours, but I usually let it rest 10-15 minutes only. While it rests, I add the carrots and the onion into the soup. Feel free to add the celery here, the flavor makes it even better, but I just couldn't find to buy for some reason today. I season with salt, and while that cooks, I move to the next dish. Which is a bunch of vegetables that I plan to bake with parts of the chicken. I have broccoli, red pepper, a green bell pepper, and I cut them into cubes, nothing fancy. A carrot, just try for the pieces to be uniform to have them cook evenly. I bring a zucchini, use mushrooms if you have. I cook them in olive oil. Add the back of the chicken, the legs, and one arm, and I keep the chest and organs for the soup. Something I did was to add an apple, which was actually such an amazing add. Next time I plan to add at least 2-3 more. Followed by an onion, add them to the baking dish, then season with what you have, salt, pepper, maybe some garlic would work as well, and bake at 450 for 30 to 35 minutes. Keep an eye on it, then bake for another 10 to 15 minutes uncovered to 250 to get them crisp a bit. While that cooks, let's go to our noodles. The dough is pretty dry now and I add some flour on a clean surface, then roll it with a spoon that I have, which is a spoon holder. Minimalistic equipment while traveling, but it worked very well. Once you fold it in a big piece, give it a couple of hours to rest if you have the time. If not, just use a bit more flour to roll it and then cut into tiny strips. It's actually my childhood soup that grandma used to cook so often for us. The risk for this dough is to stick too much and to not get those beautiful layers, but if you're careful you can make it work. Don't do pasta or other quick alternatives, it's just not the same. As the chicken chest should be cooked by now, I take all of it including the carrots and onion out into a bowl, then add the noodles and chop the carrots beautifully. I don't add the onion anymore, I just cut the chest as well into tiny bite-sized pieces and remove the bones. It's very efficient for the kids to eat more independently. Oh, another thing I really like is that it cooks so fast. In 30 minutes it's almost like cutting itself. This is a sign it's fresh and young. If you get a 4 or 5-year-old grandma chicken, you might end up boiling it for hours to get that meat tender. Add it back and then let it cook for another 5 minutes to kind of blend everything together. I add some frozen chopped cilantro. Highly recommend do fresh. I did it out of necessity, but if you want a real flavorful soup, fresh is the way to go. Sprinkle some black pepper and it's ready. Let's ensemble the burritos now. This lavash is very long, so I just cut one big piece into two, add some of each egg, meat, cheese, and feel free to enhance the recipe with other things if you want, but I just want things as simple as I can. Roll it, you might do a better job than I added some cheese at the end to kind of stick the sandwich. I stopped the heat for the soup and added some sour cream or Greek yogurt to the sandwiches. You can see the soup is very nice and the taste is just amazing because of that chicken broth combined with homemade noodles. The vegetables and chicken were just super delicious as well. The dressings we're using are just lemon or olive oil or maybe yogurt, but that's kind of it. Please leave in the comments below if you have any healthy suggestions, but so far it's a real success with just this as well. This food was enough until Wednesday when I cooked this lamb. I pretty much just seasoned it with salt and some garlic and baked it for 2.5 hours. It was amazing. It's very organic too. Another recipe that I cooked was this fish. This recipe from an Italian chef, and it changed everything for me. I used to really dislike cooking fish, especially now being pregnant. The smell can be so overwhelming, but this method is different. It's so good that it's officially become one of my top favorite recipes. Today I'm cooking 2 pieces. You can use almost any white fish for this, but I believe mine is called dorada, though I'm not 100% sure. In a stainless steel pan, I start with a very generous amount of olive oil, then lay the fish right in. We're going to season it generously with salt and black pepper. Next, chop up at least 4 or 5 cloves of garlic and add them right on top. Now the original recipe calls for cherry tomatoes, but I didn't have any on hand, so I'm using a normal big tomato sliced up to cover the fish completely. This way my husband won't even see if the skin got stuck to the pan. Just kidding, but actually covering the fish with a tomato lets that flavor infuse deeply into the meat, making it incredibly juicy. Cover the pan for a couple of minutes to let it steam, then finish it off with some fresh chopped cilantro. Of course, as a true Romanian, there's no fish without a good polenta. While the fish simmers, start boiling some water with salt. Once it's bubbling, slowly add the cornmeal, mixing constantly without any breaks to make sure it stays smooth and cooks uniformly. It takes about 5 minutes to get that perfect consistency. I love to serve this with a lot of fresh lemon juice. Even though the fish is so flavorful, it doesn't really need anything extra. We have our own lemon trees here, and though I'm a huge fan of using them. And there you have it. So easy, so healthy, and ready in under 30 minutes. Perfect for a busy evening. And of course, when we run out of food, I decided to make this beef stir fry, which is very low on carbs, especially if you don't add rice to it or noodles. Let me show you how I made this delicious, easy and so quick little beef veggie stir fry. I'm using ground beef for protein. Here I'll use about 1 pound, but you can do this with chicken, with pork, you can do it even with shrimp. You can do it with no meat at all and just use a bunch of vegetables or even tofu. It's so delicious. I had some ground meat left in the fridge to use, and I added a little salt, a little black pepper, give it a mix and let the meat cook while you get everything else prepped. For the veggies, this is a great time to clean out your fridge. I had some broccoli, a red pepper and a green bell pepper that I just sliced up, and these are perfect. This is what I have on hand, but like I said, feel free to use anything that you have. I'll bring a zucchini and ideally you grate a carrot. I forgot, I got distracted with the kids and I just skipped it, but carrot is very recommended. I just remembered I had some mushrooms to use as well, so then I chopped some of them. I had some garlic, it really melts nice in this recipe. I use 4 cloves, adjust based on your taste, saute for a couple of seconds. For this, I won't make any sauce. I'll use lemons from the garden. Now it's perfect time to use some. I just squeeze right on top at the end. They are so sweet and perfectly ripe. I like to add a bunch of fresh cilantro for that fresh taste.
Now I have some rice cooking, but feel free to use pasta, noodles, eat it by itself, even with bread it's great. But to make this recipe it's so easy. Add your veggies, cook those for a few minutes so that they become tender. It's so healthy, so delicious, versatile, and such a great weeknight go-to because it takes no time at all to put together. It's a great clean out your fridge type of recipe. It makes everyone happy, doesn't dirty up a bunch of pots and pans, and comes together in under 15 minutes, which I love. Great for meal prep. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know which one was your favorite and make sure to subscribe for more. Most people think healthy is about restriction, but I see it as choosing my struggle. I'd rather suffer through 20 minutes of chopping fresh vegetables than suffer the long-term effects of fatty liver and insulin resistance. In this video, I'm showing you what a week of worth it suffering looks like. This is Mediterrasian cooking. My mission here is to help you become healthier and make more informed choices about the food you put into your body. If you're finding these tips and recipes helpful, subscribing is a huge help. It helps get this to more people, and if you're already part of the community, thank you so much for your support. The first thing I'll start with is homemade burger buns. Many recipes require you to bake the potatoes for an hour, but let's try to be more efficient, so I'll boil them instead. Add water and some salt to a pan and bring it to a boil. In the meantime, prepare about 3 potatoes. Peel the skin and cut them into cubes to speed up the boiling process. Add them to the water. This week I decided to add pizza to the menu, so we'll start by preparing the dough for that first. Dough recipes are different, so for this pizza dough, start adding lukewarm water to a bowl, not hot, not cold, because the yeast needs it to be just warm, followed by active dry yeast and salt. Many recipes call for at least 1 tablespoon of sugar, but if you follow this recipe, you'll see it's not mandatory. You can get a very delicious pizza without it. Add some olive oil, give it a mix, and then start adding the flour 1 cup at a time. Knead after each addition. Depending on the flour you use, you may need a little more or less, so adding it gradually helps you get the right texture. Kneading will take about 10 minutes. Then set it aside to rest for about 90 minutes. I am a mother on a rush, and you'll see that even with 30 minutes of rest, the dough is still pretty manageable. Let's make the buns now. In a bowl, add water and active dry yeast, followed by salt. I added 2 small eggs, but if yours are large, just add 1. If the egg is room temperature, even better. Add melted butter, make sure it's not hot, and then start adding the potato. You can either mash it with a fork beforehand or do it directly in the bowl if you can. Make sure it's just warm, not hot, so it doesn't burn the yeast. 150 grams of potato should be fine. Make sure it's just warm, not hot, so the yeast doesn't burn. 150 grams should be fine. We need the potatoes to make the dough soft and really enhance the bread. Once the mixture is well combined, start adding the flour.
Again, 1 cup at a time, not the entire amount at once. All-purpose flours work just fine. Mix it very well until you get a nice dough. Then set it aside and let it rest for about an hour or so. A recipe we've had on repeat this past month is this roasted cauliflower. In a cup I mixed 2 eggs very well. We try to keep it low carb, so we'll just use a bit of flour instead of breadcrumbs like most recipes have. Add paprika, salt and black pepper and cut the cauliflower into relatively small pieces. The way I do it is very simple. I cover them in egg, roll them individually in the flour mixture and spread them on a baking sheet lined with parchment paper and a bit of olive oil. I had a beautiful cauliflower and so I put the rest of it in the freezer for another round when I want to cook it. I also had some leftovers in the refrigerator, so I decided to add a few tomatoes and mushrooms to the sheet. I sliced some white onion and added it right on top. For this I added some freshly chopped dill. It's such a nice addition. Then I bake at 450 Fahrenheit for 20 minutes, then turn them over and bake again for another 10 or 15 minutes at 250 Fahrenheit. A recipe I love to use as a dressing is this tzatziki sauce. I even use it on my burgers and my husband confirms that it's just a great combo, so it's not just a weird pregnancy habit. I've noticed that 1 large cucumber is just enough. I cut it into 2 pieces, take the seeds out, since that's where most of the water is, and then chop it as thin as I can. Once finished, I squeeze it very well between my hands to remove any excess water and add it to the bowl. The next very important ingredient is dill. I chop it as finely as possible and add it right on top of the cucumber. I squeeze a very well-ripe lemon straight from the garden. And finally add the sour cream. Give it a good mix and your dressing is just ready. The cauliflower and the rest of the veggies have cooked through beautifully. The cauliflower is crunchy on the outside and very soft on the inside. It melts in your mouth. For the pizza, I'm grating some mozzarella. Surprisingly, it's quite pricey here in Georgia comparing to Romania. This piece of cheese is about $10. But anyway, I grate a lot of it on parchment paper, add some olive oil. You can see that the dough rose beautifully and is ready to use. Feel free to do stretch and fold if you want, to let it rest again, or even refrigerate overnight to get a better crust. But we aren't very patient in this regard, and so we just shape it on the parchment paper. And follow with the tomato sauce. I know there are fancier ways to shape the dough, but I want to simplify things as much as possible. I spread the cheese so even the edges are covered. I'm a no pizza expert, but it was very delicious. On top of the cauliflower, I spread some chopped fresh cilantro. The pizza goes in the oven for about 15 minutes at 500 Fahrenheit. Keep an eye on it, it cooks very fast. Here you have the roasted cauliflower with the tzatziki sauce. I had some leftover fried chicken, so it was the perfect lunch to keep on repeat. It was so good. The pizza is ready too, it doesn't look bad at all. We do try to avoid carbs, but we made an exception this week. The dough for the buns is ready as well. This is also simplified. I wet my hands with water, shape the bun and place it on the parchment paper. The recipe should give you 12. In my case I got 10 because a few were bigger. It's totally up to you. Before baking, you can brush them with an egg wash to give them a golden color. Bake for about 20 minutes at 450. Keep an eye on them. Another family favorite is this chicken recipe. I chop some leftover white onion and put it on a plate. I grate about a teaspoon of ginger for extra fresh flavor and squeeze a large lemon from our garden. followed by many minced garlic cloves. I use about 5. Feel free to adjust to your taste. As it bakes, the garlic mellows out, so it's not as intense as it seems. I chop lots of fresh dill and cilantro, then add paprika, salt, black pepper, followed by a very generous amount of olive oil. Give it a good mix and let's cut the chicken. I start with the legs, then we move to the wings. I section it in half, separating the back from the breast. The breast is quite large, so I'll just cut it in 2, perfect for kids, and I cut the back into 2 pieces as well. I cover them one by one in the mixture and add them straight to the parchment paper. If you want a more intense flavor, you can let the chicken marinate overnight in the refrigerator, but for us it's the fast, efficient way, which is still delicious. So bake at 450 Fahrenheit for about 35 minutes, then maybe another 10 minutes at 200 Fahrenheit. Just make sure to keep an eye on it. There's no great burger without good beef that you cook yourself. I got 1 kilo of meat and shaped it into equal round patties. Ideally you want an 80-20 fat ratio, so you don't need oil or butter. Just fry them in a stainless steel pan. Mine didn't have quite that much fat, and so it did chart a bit here and there, but it wasn't bad. Season with salt, flip and cook for another 7 to 10 minutes until fully cooked. Especially being pregnant, I make sure everything is well done. I add a piece of cheddar that I sliced myself. They have funny shapes, but they'll melt anyway, so no problem. I'm cooking about 8. In the meantime, the chicken is ready. I'm trying to multitask. For the chicken, I had some leftover baked potatoes, which were amazing with the tzatziki. For the burger, I keep it simple. The bun is baked beautifully on the inside, as you can see. I add the patty and extra cheese, followed by tomato and lots of tzatziki sauce. avoid mayonnaise during pregnancy because of the raw egg, and I avoid ketchup because of the sugar. The yogurt sauce has you covered. Even store-bought pickles often have sugar, which is why I skip them. It was so good. Definitely give it a try. This week we expected some friends over and I wanted to serve them their own traditional food, which is hachapuri. It's basically bread with cheese and so easy and delicious. You need warm water, yeast, salt and some yogurt, which makes the dough soft. Mix it and start adding flour 1 cup at a time. My little helper mixes well, then I take over and knead by hand. When I finish, I add a few drops of olive oil and mix again. Most baked breads have sugar in them in order to soften the dough, but believe me, you don't need it. For your teeth alone, even a little sugar can have side effects, so I highly recommend avoiding it when it isn't necessary. This lentil soup is a staple for us because it's easy, delicious and high protein, especially during the fasting days. Saute the chopped onion, white or red doesn't matter, in olive oil. Thinly chop some garlic cloves and saute them for a minute or so. Chop a big carrot. This is such a nice addition. I chopped a bit more than I needed, so I'll give the rest to my kids as a snack. They love it. Cube a few potatoes and set them aside. I add the green lentils and carrots first because they take longer to boil than potatoes. I'll add them about 5 to 7 minutes later. Cover with water and add some salt. The pizza was so good that I sacrificed some hachapuri dough to make another one as a snack. For hachapuri they use imeruli cheese, which is a mild salted cow cheese. It's delicious with fried veggies, potatoes or meat. The soup is now ready for the potatoes, so I'll add them, I'll cover it and let it simmer for another 10 to 15 minutes. My snack pizza was ready fast. I spread olive oil on parchment paper. And shaped the dough with my fingers. Again, we keep it simple for minimal cleaning. add the cheese, fold the edges over to cover it entirely, then press it down to hide the cheese. I turn it over so the cheese is more on top. Bake for 20 minutes at 450 Fahrenheit. A great addition to the soup is spinach. I cut the bunch into about 4 pieces, add it to the soup and let it cook for a few minutes. Finally, chop some fresh cilantro, add it and turn off the heat. How to quit sugar in 5 steps for more energy, fewer cravings, and better health overall. The hidden sugar trap is that this tiny amount of powder is the absolute maximum amount of added sugar you should consume in a day. But the scary part is that most of us are hitting double or even triple of the limit. Over a week, that creates a massive health deficit. It isn't just about the obvious sweets like candy or soda. Today, I'm revealing exactly where sugar is sabotaging our diet, how it wrecks our mood and energy, and my 5 essential strategies to slash your sugar intake without feeling deprived. I used to struggle with sugar, chasing sweets after every meal and relying on sugary snacks even as main foods of the day during work or during my study time in university. I thought swapping to quick alternatives would help, but I was wrong. Why your healthy snacks are failing you. Sugar is a master of disguise. It's hidden in plain sight even in foods marketed as health products. A bottle of Coke of 500 milliliters has 12 teaspoons of sugar. Energy drink, at least 10 teaspoons. Some fruit juice, 4 teaspoons. Some granola, 4 teaspoons of sugar. Iced coffee, at least 6 teaspoons. It's also lurking in savory items like salad dressings, marinades, and pre-made soups. Manufacturers bury it under technical names like syrups, agave, and concentrates. Even refined white carbs like pasta and rice hit your bloodstream just as fast as a pure table sugar. The packaging secret is natural versus added. Not all sweeteners are equal. It contains sugar, but it's